I do have a sponsor in today's video, but more on that shortly. Holy crap, BioWare just released a ton of new high-level gameplay footage for the Veilguard, so we have a lot to go over in today's video. And after this big initial section of the video, I'll also be touching up on some other news, such as low-level Mage gameplay, the PC experience, and an immersive Dragon Age podcast that BioWare just announced. As always, chapter markers below. Before we dissect this, though, I do want to give some initial impressions here. So after the official reveal for this game a few months back, as a Dragon Age fan, I was pretty bummed out. It looked like BioWare was out of touch with RPG fans and also many Dragon Age fans. And then came the gameplay reveal, which brought me up to, I would say, more of a middle ground feeling for the game, I guess you could say. But I did feel like the combat was looking boring and very generic. So any of my hope for excitement at this point was mostly relying on world building and story and maybe companions, but even those I was also still worried about. And then the fairly recent release trailer came out, and from a story lore and cinematics perspective, I felt like BioWare was starting to nail it now. At this point, I knew at least I had this to look forward to and be hopeful for. And this brings us to the entire point of the video, the new high-level gameplay reveal. And although I would personally prefer an Origin-style combat system myself, I don't think I'll ever forgive BioWare for taking away some of our agency and some of the deeper RPG systems that we experienced in previous games. But for what BioWare is aiming at here for this, I have to say, this actually looks pretty fun, and I'm feeling some genuine feelings of excitement for this game. But you know what else is exciting? Sitting in a comfortable, health-conscious chair. This video is sponsored by FlexiSpot.
Grandma, how's the chair feel?
Oh, it's great. My back feels great.
As a gamer, having a comfortable chair, but also one that encourages healthy posture, is of prime importance, which is why I now have the C7 ergonomic chair in the cockpit. Unlike my old chair, I finally have quality lumbar support that fits right and my body feels better than ever. The reason why the C7 reigns supreme is that it offers a plethora of adjustments to allow you to achieve a truly customized fit. The lumbar support cushion has 3 different settings, but most importantly, it offers an adaptive dynamic system that detects subtle changes in your posture and automatically adjusts itself as you move around, ensuring constant support. The headrest tilts back and raises up, the armrests slide back and forward and also inwards and outwards. I went with the mesh cushion, which is not only breathable but also the perfect level of firmness and comfort for me, but there's also a foam option. Now both types of seats are 20 inches wide, allowing cross-legged seating. One of my favorite adjustments is that the entire seat itself can slide forward and back, and you can adjust the forward tilt, which can help relieve pressure and fatigue. The entire chair, of course, can be raised up and down, and you can recline and relax with a lever to lock it in place. And there's even a recline resistance crank. This leg rest that you see right here is a wonderful add-on. Now, if you prefer an integrated ergonomic chair, there's also the C5 option. So start taking your sitting health and comfort seriously and use my exclusive code C730 to purchase the C7 premium ergonomic chair now and enjoy a $30 discount. This is the best time to buy the C7, and you'll see me using this chair for a very long time. Just because I'm starting to feel excited about the game now, it doesn't mean the game will be great, of course. But this is kind of the emotional roller coaster that BioWare has put me on, I guess you could say. So as someone who has already gone through the mourning period and moved on from hoping that the DA franchise will return to more Origin style gameplay, I'm actually pretty pumped right now. The higher level combat gameplay that we got to see, I believe this is actually level 30 out of 50. It looks smooth to me. The skill trees look like they have decent depth to them, even with having less active abilities available than the previous games. Although fairly simplistic, there's a decent amount of items to use and set on your character. Some of the skills look great, and something that I really appreciated here was BioWare showing us this particular player utilizing the tactical pause menu quite a lot. Now, I'm guessing that it's probably not an essential system to win every combat encounter, especially on easier difficulties, but it seems fairly well developed here. The combos that you can create are pretty cool, although I do wish BioWare had a little more faith in player intelligence and didn't just tell you what all the combos were, I guess. And I was very happy to see for the first time in action that you can control which particular target each specific companion attacks, and that's huge for myself. At least it gives some control back to the player, as we all know BioWare has done away with the ability to actually play as a companion now. Although some of my previous criticisms on the combat that I've made still stand here, I have to say initial impressions of this high-level combat are pretty good, and most importantly, it did look like it could potentially be fun. And now let's enter into a deeper look at what we saw here, starting off with abilities and runes. So on the character tab in the menu, you can see your character's 3 set active abilities on the bottom, and the 4th one is your character's ultimate ability. Now you get these skills through your character's class-specific skill trees. We have a warrior right here who took an interesting path, ultimately arriving in the champion specialization, which is like your tanky warrior. The diamond-shaped nodes on the skill tree represent the abilities that you can set on the character screen that we previously were on. We did get to see some of these abilities in action, such as the warrior's kick ability, the shield throw ability, spectral bulwark, which causes damage to opponents who hit you, a grappling spear, Titan Stomp. And there's a few others, but also an example of one of the warrior's ultimate abilities called Warden's Fire, which unleashes a barrage of strikes and burns enemies. There's also a ton of nodes that offer passive benefits here, such as the Heavy Armor Master Greater passive for warriors who want to really lean into that tanky heavy aspect of the class as it raises your defense. And there's even some passives that cause active things to happen on the battlefield, such as Fiery Resolve here, which turns your weapons into fire weapons when you do a perfect defense, which is like a parry that requires timing. And we did get an example of it in a combat situation. I should also mention that many abilities have buffs and debuffs attached to them, such as Davrin's Heroic Strike ability doing some nice damage, but also applying Overwhelm on opponents, causing them to take additional stagger. So if your character is being overwhelmed, for example, perhaps you use that ability with Davrin, and this will cause the opponents around your character to start being stunned much quicker, preventing, you from being overwhelmed. To further customize and tailor your build, the game also has a rune system, which I'm assuming runes will be acquired as loot in the world, or perhaps you can even craft them. I'm not sure yet. But runes are basically, I would say, mostly passive benefits, it seems, but there's actually some other cool things that you can do with them. And you can equip what appears to be 3 runes at a time. Now, we've seen a variety of different benefits that runes can offer here, many of which are passive, but to my surprise, some runes actually will give you access to unique abilities, further allowing more build variety, which I do love to see. And this also helps with, BioWare having reduced the amount of active abilities from the previous games down to a mere 3 abilities plus an ultimate. This adds a little bit more to that. And right here you can see the player character activating their rune that's called Crystallize, which is an AoE freeze, and this almost feels like having another active ability. Now let's take a quick look at the inventory tab. We have our primary weapon, which is a sword and shield for this warrior. The sword and shield both have a physical damage rating or value and also a stagger value, plus several affixes below that, a few of which have some sort of unlocking or prerequisite system behind them. And stagger, for those who are unaware, is something that builds up when you land hits on opponents, and it's represented by a purple bar above the enemy's HP bar. And once this completely fills up, the opponent is stunned, which then offers an opportunity for a finishing move in some cases. And below the primary weapon slot appears to be a secondary weapon slot, which does make sense, as we have been told that we'll have access to 2 weapon loadouts. And this is also nice to see, as it gives some more agency and variety back after the amount of active abilities have been reduced. We also have a helm slot where we can see a defense value and an increase to ability damage, plus several more unique minor affixes. And you'll also notice a hide helm option, which is always great to see in any RPG. There's an armor slot with similar categories of affixes as the helm, and it looks like you can actually also hide your armor to maybe be wearing more casual wear, is what I think I heard in the past. Unfortunately, there's no individual leg slots or boot slots or, gauntlets or anything like that. Armor is mostly just a set, except for the helm, of course, which is separate. And then we have 2 ring slots, an amulet slot, and I don't know if this is like a belt slot or something like that, whatever, something of similar potency to rings and amulets. You may have noticed when the player scrolled over the ring is a red item, which is a unique item. And this particular ring is great for builds focused on fire, as it increases burn stack and makes all afflictions that you apply as burning. And we also got a quick look at the companion's inventory interface and options here, which is definitely more simplistic than your player characters. As you can see, there's not as much to, set or choose here. And also note that the companion skill trees are more simplistic as well than your rook character skill trees. And you can actually see a little bit of the skill tree for the companions right here. This right here is the menu where you choose what companions you want to take with you, of which you can have 2 at a time. equaling a full party size of 3. Personally, this is something I had to grieve a bit, as party size has been reduced by 1 for this game compared to the previous games, but there's really no sense in crying about it anymore, as it is what it is. And now let's jump into some combat here. We of course can enter the tactical pause to target opponents to see what weaknesses and resistances they may have. Darkspawn, for example, are vulnerable to fire but resistant to poison, so you'll want to adjust accordingly. On the top of the tactical menu, this is where you can choose companions to have them attack particular opponents of your choosing. Really happy to see this. You can see the player setting Lucanus to attacking this particular Darkspawn. This is also where you can control what active abilities a companion uses in a specific moment, such as the player character, telling Davrin to use Death from Above on some enemies in the distance. The tactical pause is also where you set combos, of course, as you can see here. The player character combos Davrin's Heroic Strike with Lucanus's Eviscerate. This can also just be a good, menu to enter if you just need a second to breathe or just to think about what's going on overall in the combat encounter. So what are your thoughts on the combat so far? Has it changed from what you saw before? We only saw low-level combat before. Are you excited about it now? Not excited? Let me know below in the comments. But we do have a few more topics to discuss today, starting with the low-level mage gameplay. So compared to the early game rogue footage that we saw before, I thought that didn't really look the greatest. I actually thought the mage looked pretty good. So we got to see this jump staff slam spell, which shoots out an AoE blast, knocking enemies back and dealing damage. There's some sort of beam-like spell, which gives off the impression that the player will have or can have complete control over where the beam is aiming. There's a spell that summons a bunch of orbs or hexadecagons or something like that. You have what appears to be the basic light attack for the staff, a very wide spell that cuts across the battlefield in like a crescent arc type shape. And then we also got a glimpse of what I'm assuming is a Spellblade mage, which are melee specialized mages. And this character does like a little jump flip ground smash with a melee weapon, which deals some magical AoE damage. As someone who tends to play rangers and warriors and rogues in games, I'm actually considering playing a mage in this game, as it looks, I don't know, it just looks pretty cool. All right, 2 more quick topics to discuss as I sit here in my comfortable C7 FlexiSpot chair. Let's go, baby. Starting off with Dragon Age Vows and Vengeance, which is like a podcast narrative immersive experience that comes out on the 29th. There's going to be 8 episodes of this. This is really cool, and it's going to feature some characters from Dragon Age the Veilguard. I just love seeing companies do stuff like this. Have just a quick little listen here so you know what we're talking about.
From the world of Dragon Age comes a new tale.
Nadia Carcosa, wanted by Tevinter authorities for crimes of theft, high treason, and murder.
Who the hell is Nadia Carcosa?
So, what's the mark?
The Eye of Cthulhu.
So there's a little taste of it right there. That's super exciting for me as someone who's a big fan of world building, character building, and stuff like that. Definitely going to be listening to all 8 episodes, and I'll probably do like a video or 2 on them. But let me just give you guys a quick description here, a little bit deeper of a description. If you don't care, just go to the next chapter marker. Nadia, a retired cat burglar, is lured back into action for the thrill of one last score. Unknowingly employed by the Dread Wolf, Nadia tracks down a powerful ancient artifact, and both she and her lover Elio find themselves caught in a web of lies that threaten the entire world. When Elio is seemingly banished to the Fade, a mystical magical plane, Nadia desperately searches for answers on a rescue mission across Theta. So, obviously it's going to be tied into the Veilguard in some way, shape, or form. We already have mention of the Dread Wolf right here. Very cool in my opinion. And as someone who loves doing like lore videos, immersive feeling lore videos on my channel, which I will have plenty coming for Dragon Age over the next month or 2, so make sure to subscribe for that. I'm all about this. Really cool. And the final topic today is details on the PC experience for the Veilguard, starting with input. So BioWare basically is telling us that both keyboard and mouse and controller will offer good experiences for this game, and you'll also be able to seamlessly transition between the two, which is actually something I do actually do sometimes, as you know, menu screens can be easier with a mouse and keyboard, and gameplay, action combat gameplay can be better with a controller, in my personal preference. Bioware also says that they've added the ability to customize class-specific keybinds that you can easily switch between. So if you're playing a rogue, you can have a different set of keybinds than when you're playing as a mage or a warrior. And back in that low-level mage gameplay video, that was actually an RTX trailer. So do note that this game will feature RTX with several different options to choose from. Now, RTX is ray tracing for those who are unaware, and basically it just increases the quality of a game's lighting, but oftentimes at the cost of performance. But the good thing here is that BioWare has announced DLSS 3 support. So if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, this should be an option you can turn on, and it will likely improve the frame rate of your game. And if you don't have an NVIDIA graphics card, this game will support FSR 2.2. These are going to be things you can toggle on and off, including the ray tracing, so it's up to you. This game will fully support 21:9 ultra wide monitors. There will be a field of view slider, an option for uncapped frame rates, and also full HDR support. Now, many of the graphical and display settings that you can mess with in this game that you can see right here, you can actually see them in real time when you make that change, or some of these you can see in real time as you click on the change, and then you get like a little preview on the right side of the screen, which is nice. You may also notice right here a strand hair setting. Now, for Steam players and Steam Deck players, the Veilguard will be completely Steam native. The game is already Steam Deck verified, apparently, with cloud support, so you'll be able to switch between PC and your Steam Deck with ease, and you can also remote play from your Steam Deck to your TV. BioWare shared a pretty big list here of display features and graphical settings, so just pause the video if you want to see them all. And that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. As I get more excited for this game, I'm very happy that I'm feeling more excited for it now. Plenty more Dragon Age the Veilguard content to come, including a lore series. I got to get to work on that pretty much now because we're running out of time. And thank you to C7 FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. You guys will see me using this chair probably for a very long time, and I've already been using it for a little while. Pretty cool. They got a nice little sale going on right now. I'll leave a link down below, and I'll catch you all on the next. Oh, and also be on the lookout. I think I'm going to do a Let's Play series for this game, so pretty excited to do that type of content again. Bye.